Namaste. This is Timothy Halloran. I'm an astrologer from Savannah, Georgia. This is a weekly astrological forecast, this being for the first week of November 2015, and today is Tuesday, November 3rd. So these are the days, this is a time that we're coming into where if we can actually separate ourselves from the distractions of everyday life and allow ourselves to actually sink into and feel some of the immensity that is happening very deeply beneath the surface, we can really tap into and get a sense of some of this major healing and magic and awakening that is really happening beneath the surface at this time. So we need to open up and talk about some of the aspects going on this week, and then really talk about some of the underlying gist that is taking us through this entire next period to come. So yesterday we had the moon move into Leo early in the morning, and we also had Mercury move into Scorpio. And Mercury will remain in Scorpio for around the next month. And with Mercury in Scorpio, and Mercury is approaching a trine with Neptune that will be exact this upcoming Friday, we have this much more penetrative mind that is allowing us to see deeper, see through the surface, through the BS, and actually tap into some of the core issues that are going on. And with this trine to Neptune, it makes us all the more sensitive. This is a week where we really can be opening up our subtle sensitivities, and we can be sensing a lot. And this Mercury going through Scorpio this next month is really going to help us go there, really see some of the underlying mechanisms, and have some of these deeper transformative conversations. Now yesterday we also had Venus conjoin Mars in Virgo. And this conjoining of Mars and Venus really is a lot of stuff that's happening simultaneously, synchronistically. So on one level, this Venus-Mars is this uniting of our drive, our willpower, our physical energy, and our desires with our values. What we actually value inwardly, what we actually like to surround ourselves with. This is a time where if we've been putting intention and work into aligning our work and our goals and our purpose and our feelings and our deeper desires, this is a period where we can really see a lot of alignment in terms of a lot of these different areas. The coming together of the masculine and the feminine is also this outward active force that should hopefully be now connecting and uniting with our inner sentiments, how we actually perceive the world, how we actually feel and receive the various aspects of our life, the various people in our life, the people we're working with. We're trying to bring all these things together. And this is a period where we can really feel the positive and the forward moving in this direction. And we can also sense where this might still be lacking. And this is really, I think, some of the big underlying dynamic is the wibble wobble back and forth. You know, 2 steps forward, really being progressive, doing the work regiment, implementing the new schedule, the new way to live in a healthy way, hanging around people that make us feel healthy, that uplift us and remind us of the truth. And we're still figuring out how to perfect this. This is a major perfecting time, and this is the time that we're going into. It's going to be a period that is really about refining. Now today we have Jupiter in Virgo opposite to Chiron in Pisces, and this is going to be some of the bigger theme that we're talking about. We're talking about major healing that is happening. But before we get into this, we'll talk about the moon moves into Virgo tomorrow evening and then joins up with Mars and Venus in Virgo just past midnight. That's going to be early Saturday morning on the East Coast. And then Saturday, the moon moves into Libra. So we're dealing a lot with this Virgonian healing, perfecting, focusing on details. We're also coming into our senses and our sensitivities. as Virgo really represents our hypersensitivities. We're all feeling hypersensitive. And there really is advantage to this, because this type of hypersensitivity and tuning into the subtle realms, which is really what we have going for us, if we can make it there, if we can tap into that level, if we can separate ourselves from the mundane, from the distractions, from the interferences, enough to process our own feelings and really tap into our own senses that are in fact awakening at this time, we can really start to understand that although it may seem like a hindrance at times to be very sensitive and to keep getting little pangs and little wounds and little reminders of our past, of our history, of our own wounds that go very deep and go very far back. Well, as we're going to talk about, these are our stories and our wounds and our sensitivities and what has always rubbed against us and make us feel isolated and make us feel misunderstood. This has to do with our unique nature. And so this week, as we are getting deeper into our own sensitivities and we're really feeling out this greater story that does lead us into the collective story that is the healing of ourselves and also the divine feminine, also our own ideals, our own beliefs, our own philosophies. This is the healing that is happening, and it is happening on a very deep level, and it is beginning. And it is a long-term period that we're going through, and yet we feel waves of it. And this is a week that we can really feel this wave. So the big thing going on this week is Jupiter opposite to Chiron today. And then the other thing that's really culminating and completing through this next week is the moon's nodes are about to shift. The moon's nodes is called the Karmic axis. It is really the polarity between the past and the future that we are always reverberating between. And we're going to tie this theme in with the Virgo-Pisces, Chiron energy that's going on, where this axis that we are going to be shifting into, which is the Pisces-Virgo axis, it has a lot to do with healing the collective wounds, healing our own deepest insecurities, our own so-called imperfections, and uniting our ideals with reality through having to challenge what is real and what has been mere fantasy or our own dreams or our own delusions that we might have been grabbing onto that might not have been giving us the deeper sense of security, the deeper sense of who we are. And so this is a lot of the underneath theme that we're dealing with right now. And what's happening is the lunar axis, the karmic axis, has been in the signs of Libra and Aries throughout the last, around year and a half. And so now we are culminating and completing this theme of Libra and Aries, which has so much to do with self and other, with masculine and feminine. What we desire, what we go out and do, our own self-autonomy, our own capability to initiate, our own unique brilliance. And how we can simultaneously embody ourselves and protect our own uniqueness, so it's not being needlessly sacrificed or needlessly drained or needlessly given to everybody else. And simultaneously, we have to work with other people in a collaborative way, in a way that is actually constructive, in a way that is harmonious. So this has been the theme for over a year, and we're still seeing this theme now, this week, being really looked at, culminated, and completed. And this week, Venus is going to move up, move into Libra at the end of this week, and conjoin the moon's north node in Libra on Sunday. And this is Venus getting an evolutionary update. And this is looking at all the stuff that has been going on the last year and a half, having to do with balancing within and without our relationships, how we work with other people, and simultaneously bringing our unique genius and gems out there, presenting ourselves, giving ourselves, not needlessly self-sacrificing. So this Venus principle is the inner-outer principle. And we're looking very seriously at this principle this week, with Venus moving into her own sign of Libra and conjoining the moon's north node at 0 degrees Libra. This is the issue. How do we heal our own inner-outer principle in a harmonious, beautiful, loving way? This is what we all want, is this loving interaction with our beloveds, with our family, with our co-workers, with everybody. And this is Venus. This is the feminine principle. We are learning how to respect our own inner world. Partly with this Venus-Mars conjunction in Virgo, we are being made aware of our own hypersensitivities as they relate to our own unique nature. And we are having to respect what makes us uniquely human. And for many people, this is the coming to terms with our own femininity and having to re-embrace our own femininity. And this is, of course, respecting our own feelings, our own sensitivities, our own senses, our awakening at this time, as the divine feminine is coming here for us, and now we are welcoming her. This moon's north node moving into Virgo for the next year and a half is going to be anchoring in this healing divine feminine. It's going to be us having to take ownership for our own wounds, connected to the collective consciousness, connected to this collective story that has belittled our sensitivities in the past, that has belittled our own sensualities, our own emotions, our own desires for healing in a way that is service-oriented, as the feminine principle really got manipulated and then taken advantage of and then sucked dry. The feminine principle, which is about giving, which is about serving, which is about having compassion towards the other, has been manipulated and abused. So it's very, very interesting that the feminine principle, which is within all of us, men or women, is having to take a stand for itself right now, which means that I have values within myself that are important for me to take ownership and stand up for now. Not only for my own well-being, but for the well-being of the entire world. And the analogy and example of this could be the abused housewife and the patriarchal father who doesn't take care of his children but forces the housewife to do everything. And that housewife, and this is what happened to the collective feminine, is just 100 years ago, femininity was told to be the 50s housewife. You take care of the children, you do blah, 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 and then the man can just do whatever the hell he wants. Well, then it's very important in rescuing the divine feminine, for the divine feminine to take a stand for herself, which means she's not only doing it for herself, let me separate from this patriarchal male figure who is in fact abusing me, stripping me of my energy, stripping me of my power and capability. Not only that, I have to take a stand for my femininity, for my values, for my sensitivity, for who I am, for my children as well. I can't let my children see this example of the beaten, submissive housewife, because I don't want them to be raised in a world that believes that that's what femininity is. So in all of our very unique and individual ways, we are looking into ourselves, and we are particularly looking into the past. And we are seeing how we might have been manipulated or abused or taken advantage of. Or the other part that's quite difficult sometimes is how we could have been misled, how we could have been deceived by somebody else's ideas of how we should be, of our beliefs or our philosophies or our culture's ideas of how we're supposed to be. With Jupiter opposite to Chiron today, and it's going to be remaining exact through this next week, there is almost this stoic understanding and feeling that we can really tap into and I think use to our advantage. And it's very interesting because, like we said, on one part we have to take a stand and represent the part of ourself that has been beaten up. And then the other part of this Chiron opposite to Jupiter in Virgo is that we have to let ourselves surrender to the feelings, to our reactions, to the hypersensitivity, and to the wounds, to the pain. So whenever we're dealing with Jupiter Chiron, I think there's always this kind of stoic feel or stoic energy, and this means that there is this perseverance through suffering and pain, which really only comes from understanding the deeper nature of pain and suffering and why we are here at this time. And so a lot of what's happening in terms of us owning up to our own feelings, stepping into healthier regimens and schedules and relationships, is there's a big shifting of relationships that can be happening through this period as well. Both our intimate relationships, our friends, etc. And really what I think this is about is us getting into the deeper understanding of why we need to be okay with pain and suffering, because it is a part of the spiritual journey. It is the spiritual journey. I mean, Chiron is really the understanding that reveals our greater wounds, our childhood wounds, the stuff that really affected us in that way. Is the stuff that simultaneously brings us into our strength, that makes us capable of understanding pain and suffering and thereby be able to heal others. For example, many clients that I work with, sometimes we go through experiences where there are no parental figures, or the parents don't support us, or there's no nurturing, and therefore, going through an experience like that, we have to become our own parents. We have to find the mother and the father within ourselves. In order for us to nurture ourselves, in order for us to pat ourselves on the back, Chiron is really about self-initiating ourselves into us being, all of us, healers, through some type of interaction with pain or suffering that leads us into discovering the medicine ourselves. It's not really given to us. Chiron requires our own mastery. And so with all of this shifting around of values and relationships and the karmic axis moving into this next year and a half that's going to be much more mystical, much more healing each other and come here my child, let me support you, rather than the male-female, competition and let's work things out that way in relationship. It's getting deeper, more profound and more mystical. So for example, something we might find ourselves drifting away from, ironically, is these relationships that might all be fun and games, but they're not really letting us get into this deeper part of who we are. They're not letting us speak our deeper sentiments, speak our actual feelings. And so these relationships that, can just be, oh, let's go get ice cream and then go to the movies, or let's all escape and go to the hippie commune and all be happy together. And a lot of these relationships and a lot of the ways that we seek out social interaction is escaping. Oh, I've went through this really painful experience, so I want to go away and hang around a bunch of people that are going to just be talking about distracting, fun, exciting, overstimulating things. And then we come back to our actual self, our actual life, and nothing gets resolved. So there is this actual shifting that's allowing us to appreciate the deeper elements of life, of nature, of who we are, and it is taking many souls right now through difficult experiences. I mean, there are these collective experiences where people could have felt like they've just given all their energy to somebody else, they've been carrying this person, and now they gotta let him go. You can't carry this person forever. Or the other experience could be that we've just been sitting in the back, and trying to do it everybody else's way, trying to speak everybody else's way, and it just doesn't work. We have to find relationships that actually tap into our depth, where we are actually allowed to speak what we're feeling, what we're going through, our current struggles, our current pains, because that's how healing happens. Those are the real friendships. Those are the real relationships. Not when we come together and party, not when we come together and we try to escape into some fantasy and get married or go off into some home or move to some deserted island where we can be in our perfect relationship and nothing productive happens. We need to understand where we are in the greater scope of things. And the truth is, we all have shitloads of healing to do. If we think that we can just skip all that stuff, run off to the hippie commune, never talk about our feelings, never talk about our sensuality, never talk about the stuff that hurt us, even sometimes we get hurt by trivial, mundane things. But that's okay. We need to talk about these things. We need to have these conversations. We need to see these things. We need to see to that level. That way we can actually move through it and heal it. That way we can actually restore an understanding of who we are and the universe and nature in a way that all works together. So we're not fighting against the grain when we're doing our job, and now I have to be a lie when I go to my work. And we're not fighting against the grain when we're in our relationship. Oh, I need to lie when I'm doing my relationship. Oh, well, this really hurts me, but it's for a trivial reason. So every single time I get hurt, I just need to put on a happy face and lie about how I really feel. This is the awakening of the divine feminine. And she is here. And she is now ready for us to embrace her. And so now we are doing the movement of healing our subtle senses. As we heal our subtle senses, we are going to have to confront, dig up, and purge out the old stories and wounds and prejudices that kept these subtle senses unconscious to us. So as we are awakening these subtle senses now, as we are awakening our feelings, our sensitivities, etc., we are also awakening to the greater story of how these sensitivities got oppressed and got suppressed and put away. So this is the healing process that is going on. The last 2.5 years, we had Saturn transiting Scorpio. And it was just like, confront the shadow, dig up, look at how not great everything is, look at how not perfect everything is. Now we have this very Virgo-centric next 1.5 years. And this is like the purifying, the refining. And here's the point. If we actually allow ourselves to see all the shadows, everything that's wrong, everything that's not perfect, the way we should have the last 2.5 years, now we get the opportunity to purify, to refine, to actually correct those things. However, if we've just been running away, and I'm too scared, and that feels too bad, and I don't want to talk about those things, and it's just too messy, I can't handle it, I gotta run into fantasy, I just gotta join some club where everybody's talking about light, airy-fairy things, so I don't have to think about that stuff. Well, now we're realizing that things are a little bit more difficult, because we're supposed to be really looking at this deeper stuff so we can start healing it, and that means you gotta see. We have to look at our shadows first. So we should already be okay with the fact that we have to make changes at this time, that things are really having to transform at this time. And we should hopefully understand that this is in the service of fixing things. This is in the service of making our life better. This is in the service of improvement. So don't be afraid and don't skimp out. Don't be afraid to plunge into some of these feelings. Don't be afraid to look out into the world and just cry. Don't be afraid to look out at some of these people that are surrounding us, going through these difficulties right now, and just let ourselves have our hearts awakened. This is the healing process. This is the purifying process. This is taking us into our core strength. So let us continue to sink into our feelings. Let us continue to respect our own values and let our own self-respect of our own values come back around to us. As soon as we start respecting ourselves and our values, we'll start having relationships that reflect back to us this respect and this love and this harmony, rather than continuously recycling people back to us that keep us going through the same recycling pains and wounds. So in this endeavor, I'm wishing you absolutely the best. I'm going to be putting out a video later this week that's going to be going into some of my own healing process, another personal update, as there's also going to be a number of changes that are going on to Rasalila healing through this next month or two. So I look forward to being all the more in contact with you, wishing you and your beloveds all the best. Namaste.